My name is Megan. I am a teacher of 6 years. I worked in South San Francisco for 1 year, and I've spent the last 5 years teaching in San Francisco. And what was the last thing?
And just your connection to San Francisco.
I'm from the Bay Area. I grew up in South San Francisco. My mom still lives there, and I went to college in SF State, so I stayed pretty local. Okay, so I guess long ago, my grandparents, their parents owned homes in the city. Over time, they kind of, I guess, left the city a little bit. But my mom's family, they lived kind of like by San Bruno Avenue, that area, and then they ended up leaving because the schools weren't so good. My mom was getting picked on, her siblings. They went to Catholic school out here, and then they ended up moving to San Bruno. So that's my grandma. My dad's side stayed out here till they died, pretty much. And I still have some uncle. My uncle lives out here, my dad's brother. He still lives in the city by City College. And then my mom, when she went through her first marriage, she was able to get a home in South San Francisco. And back then, my grandparents really helped. They gave her a down payment on a house, so she was able to maintain that. And then I grew up there. Like I mentioned, I went to schools all in South City, and I moved away for a little while, and then I realized, gosh, I got to go to college and get a job. So I moved back home. It was the only way I could afford to go to college and live in this area. I didn't really realize it was so expensive until I was finished with college. And I finished my credential program, and I was like super excited to leave my mom's house. And so I started looking for places, and I started realizing that I can't afford anything unless I share a house with a bunch of people. So I started looking, and I had like this price range in my head. I was like, I want to spend $1,000, which wasn't that good of not that big of a price range for this area. So I found a really tiny room for 900 something. And it was in Bayview. It was in a really bad area. My mom was really mad at me because she was thinking like, it's so unsafe. And that's when I lived there. And then I started the house. The living situation was really crazy. The woman who was in charge of the house, she was just letting all these people live there. So I decided to leave there because it was just not making sense. People were eating my food, and it was just drama. And then I kept looking in the city. I gave this girl my 30-day notice, and I thought I found a place in the Mission. And then right when I was about to move in, she told me like my cousin needs to move in, blah blah blah. And then I got in this really bad situation, and I had to find a house right away after that because I already told the place I lived in that. I'm leaving, and I didn't want to go back on that. So I was either going to go with my mom or find a place. And I ended up finding a place in Daly City. And I lived there until like the pandemic started. And then I decided to go back to college, get my master's. And then I went back home for that duration of time. When I was living in Bayview, I was teaching at a public school in South San Francisco. And then when I left that job, I decided to do a private school in the city in San Francisco, and that's where I've been for the past 5 years.
And is that because like the pay is better, or is it just like less chaotic, or?
It was less chaotic. At the time, it was like a brand new school, and I was gonna be like one of the founding teachers, and I just kind of thought that was so cool. And when I was at the school in South City, it was very low funded, and I was teaching so many different things that I wasn't trained for, like PE. I had to teach music. There was no extracurricular for those kids. It was just difficult for my first teaching experience to be there. I mean, I had to go back home a few times, so it kind of affected my mom a little bit. It's not like she minds me there, but I think it was just kind of weird for her to have me there, and I'm older. And it also made it just really hard for me to like be happy with my job that didn't really allow me to pay for anything. Like my income and the housing choices just didn't match up even though I'm like educated and stuff like that, it kind of just made it a little difficult. And also it was like I said in the beginning, it's kind of like a dream. I always like drove around the city with my family hoping, oh, one day I could have these houses. And it just, it like all of a sudden dawned on me like, oh, I can't make that happen, not with this job.
And have you heard that the same sentiment with other faculty and other teachers?
A little bit. I know there's been some of my colleagues, they had to like leave their homes. I know just one teacher that she couldn't afford it. I know one teacher that just started last year, and she moved down to work at my school, and then she wasn't getting paid enough, and she ended up quitting my job and working at Pete's because she got paid more. And now she moved back to like somewhere else, but she actually moved down the street from my work to work there and couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm.
And so it has like the like lack of affordable housing and lack of housing options kind of impacted or made you consider not teaching anymore and like looking for something else, or is like teaching what you want to do and you're gonna?
It's really what I always wanted. I always envisioned myself as a teacher. However, I did get my master's, and probably in the future I'm probably going to, change that and try to look for something better. Well, as I was going to school, I was thinking, I could still work in a school and be a specialist or something like that.
If there was more access to affordable housing and just more affordable housing in general,
mm-hmm.
how would that impact educators on their day-to-day?
Oh, wow, it would be so helpful. It would be really nice. It's a stressful job, and to have like that one less, burden of high rent, I think it would make a lot of educators want to stay near the schools they teach at rather than commute far. It might also make people want to stay in the teaching field.
And why do you think it's important for teachers to have access to housing within the communities that they teach with?
Because then they get to know the community of the students. I think they connect better to their students when they're a part of the community. I think it would help them really also bring the community into the classroom. It would be easier to teach based off their student interest and stuff like that. I guess because I'm a teacher, good schools, maybe nice markets, community centers. I think a lot about kids when I think of a nice community and how to keep them safe and, having a good education and stuff like that. Maybe more like mom and pop shops, like supporting more local business, because that kind of helps the community grow also. I feel like the city's kind of swaying away from that. A lot of places are closing either because they're getting robbed or because people can't afford them. Major corporations, are kind of taking over there. Churches, good schools, good community centers. Well, I think we should try to make it affordable for the working class. It feels like the middle class doesn't really get a lot of opportunity. They're kind of just stuck in this cycle of just working and rent teacher housing, and maybe having more programs like that. I never really looked into it or applied for it because I've always been going to school, but now that I'm more settled in my life, I could probably look into that more. But maybe having programs like that for first responders and stuff. Find a way to solve the homeless problem. It just seems so crazy. And I don't know, finding some way to solve that problem. I think a lot of people aren't comfortable, and it makes people kind of sway away from the city. When I was younger, we used to come down here and we used to go shopping on Powell Street, especially during Christmas, and it was this fun experience, and we stopped doing that just because of how run down the city is. It would be great if they could lower the prices on housing, obviously, because a lot of natives are kicked out. Even though I'm not from the city itself, I'm a Bay Area native, and it kind of sucks I can't live around here.